Good afternoon, folks. The November meeting of the Winnebago County Aging and Disability Resource Center Committee. Happy to see all of you today. Why don't we get started? I don't see any members of the public in attendance. Okay. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes as written by Beth.
I'll make a motion to approve as in a second.
Thank you. And who was the second?
Harold.
Harold, okay. Any comments or questions or amendments? Okay, I'll consider them minutes approved as written. Beth, you want to lead us in or start off the conversation with caregiver shortage and time banking?
Sure, we have been talking about caregiver shortage, and a couple meetings ago, we thought about, well, we talked about a lot of different things, but one of them that would help maybe put a dent into the professional caregiver world that's has such a shortage by doing some time banking to allow people to get some care and some help that they need to stay in their homes by using a time banking system. So I had sent out a link to everybody that about except Rob, I need to get that to you now that you have an email address. About just one example of time banking. One of the other things we were going to follow up with is Kate, I think you had made a reference to something that was occurring in Winnie County a little bit back on an effort to do some time banking. So if we want to maybe start there and let us know what you think or what happened.
Sure. We put a lot of effort into getting the time banks up and running in Winnebago County. It was actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I believe it was probably 2010 or 11. And there was a core group of us, mostly parents with special needs kids that were getting ready to age out of the district. And they really wanted something that their kids could do, some way to contribute and learn job skills and be productive members of society. So we worked for, well, they were working on it before I started. So I would say the whole effort probably took about a year, and we had a big kickoff, and we were really quite prepared to launch it in a small community. We had the backing of the churches and the little Winnebago County newspaper, and where did we have the launch? I think it was at the fire station, and we did not get a good turnout. People just did not grab on. They didn't sign up. They just, we couldn't push, pull, or drag them. And so it fizzled after a lot of concerted effort. So I don't know if things have changed. I think it would be really interesting to find a successful time bank. I was actually a little bit surprised when you brought it up a couple months ago that it's still out there.
Yeah, and I do remember when
there's got to be successful ones out there for it to still be around, 12 years later.
I do remember when there was that surge around that time frame, and yes, there are few and far between. The other update, other than what Kate just shared, that we were going to kind of start off with, was that Alana mentioned it being possibly discussed at a neighborhood association meeting. Right. So Alana, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, they really didn't move it much further because it's going into the winter time, and the best kind of options we talked about was snow angel type of theme, like Nicole's done locally. So many of the neighborhood associations said that they would just take care of it on their own, talking to their members and finding ways for neighbors to help neighbors, but nobody was interested in actually like taking on some sort of platform to integrate and make it function at this time.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the tracking system that they use. I don't know what it is that kept people from, because it's a good idea. It's a solid idea, and neighborhood associations would be a great way. church is also a great way to get that started, launch that.
Liz has got her hand up.
And I apologize, I have to keep my camera off because it's going nuts. I look like I'm in a Halloween movie or something. It goes dark and then this weird light. Anyway, I because of the timing and the sort of the focus on a smaller area in the past with Winneconne, I'm wondering if today, so many people are now a little more comfortable with technology. Also, I can tell you that there's an app called, what is it called? Nextdoor. The Nextdoor app is very, very popular. I read people, they'll post something, can someone help me with, taking out my trash or whatever, and there's 6 people that jump on from all over the Fox cities. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worth a try through the ADRC, because people seem to be more comfortable with the idea of using technology now. And so many people are on that app, and many of them are not tech savvy, but they seem to like that app. I'm not saying we use that app, but so many people do use it. They might be comfortable with something, or maybe it is through that app that they're, that we get people to go to a website or something to that effect. It might be worth trying, only because I think people are different now. I can tell you that I had students and faculty who had wanted absolutely nothing to do with technology, and those people are using technology all day long. So it might be something where, because technology could really make this helpful, because essentially you're getting a token. And you're getting a virtual token, not Bitcoin and all that junk, but they're having technology keep track of that is a little easier than somebody having to keep track, if that makes sense. I don't know, just a thought.
As someone who uses Nextdoor myself as a neighbor, I'm surprisingly popular. I must get 6 or 8 posts a day of different things. Some of it just what I consider gossip, but a good amount of it is pretty legitimate needs of XYZ, neighbor throughout the city saying, I need.
Right. Or
So,
where can I find, or who do you recommend? Those kinds of
Right.
things. This seems along the line of that. I agree, Paul.
If someone wanted to, like, let's say I'm out there asking for help, and now there's some that wants to respond that they're able to help me, do I have to put my contact information for everybody to see, or can I let just the person who might be helping me know what my actual contact information is?
I almost think it has to be name and serial number, phone number, whatever.
Well, Paul, that may be true, but from what I've seen, are you talking about in the Nextdoor app?
Right.
They have a private message system built in.
Okay.
And
That's
I've
what I
seen
want.
people do that. Have you seen that, Paul, where someone will say, I need something such and so, and somebody will PM them, I say PM
Yeah.
you, or the opposite. Someone will say, I can help you. And then the person will say, okay, I will reach out to you, private message.
Yeah, and
So-
I haven't used that feature, but
Me either, but well, except actually last Christmas, there was a woman who needed some help at Christmas. And so I PM'd her and we got some people together to help her. But that's the only time I've done it. And the other thing is that I don't know how secure that is.
Well-
I would certainly not put anything more than what they could find on Google. So.
I have a question regarding that. So you put something out there as a need, and the expectation somebody responds and just comes over and does it for you, or it's a paid type situation, or it's an expectation of in some other way you're going to go back and help them in exchange of labor?
Nextdoor is a social media platform that isn't like Facebook. It's built off your geographical region. So when you
Okay.
sign up for it, you are giving up your address with your name. You're consenting to give that information up there. And I can't view everywhere, but I can view my neighbors. And I can send out a message to people that are geographically in like the social connections I've chosen.
Do you
Okay.
have any idea what that geographic area is? Because someone might be willing to drive to the other side of Oshkosh to help somebody, but is it Would it include, for example, the entire city of Oshkosh? Is a certain number of miles, you know? I'm sorry, I don't have my phone down here with me to look it up.
So you change it with what you want. When I put out stuff for our neighborhood association, I can say the Sterling Ave neighborhood, which next door has just kind of named our areas of Oshkosh. And so that's more of like this downtown area. And it's not exactly Midtown's limits, but that's what I use if it's something very specific for our neighborhood. But if it's something I want the entire city to know about or care about, I'll open it up to Oshkosh wide.
Okay.
But again, are you looking for paid help?
Both. So there will be people who say, I need someone to, you know, plow my driveway. And then 6 or 7 people will say, I do that. I can send you a quote, or, yep. I mean, sometimes they'll even just immediately have run some sort of GPS thing. They know exactly how big your driveway is. And they say, your driveway is blah, 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 by blah, blah, blah. I'll charge you, you know, $50. And then other people, like if you say, I need someone who can, you know, pick up my mail while I'm on vacation, although I can't imagine anyone posting that, but let's say the neighbors might say, oh yeah, I can do that. Or somebody would say, yeah, I do dog sitting. Or, so it's essentially like getting together with your neighbors and saying, hey, does anybody know a good window guy? Or
Okay.
the other is, does anybody have a babysitter? Or, you know, it's just anything that you might say to your neighbors, but this is done digitally.
Okay.
And
I have
the
a couple-
time banks, Jan, is more of a bartering system. I'll rake your leaves if you mend my clothes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in a situation right now. I'm working with a couple elderly, both mid-80s. Both have become very compromised, living in a split level house, very inappropriate, both with huge mobility problems. I was over there 3 times today, changing their laundry in and out of washers and dryers and you name it. And I'm like, nah, I can't keep doing this. Running over there every time their laundry needs to be switched. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking of these sort of things. Another retired nurse from that closer to her neighborhood, former friend, and I are meeting with them on Wednesdays to sit down and talk about all their various needs and maybe look at getting an agency in there just to do these activities of daily living that they're struggling with.
It sounds like next door might be someone also similar to, like, you know, you're from Oshkosh when, you know, you're from Winnebago when, you know, those, they're a
Right.
variation of Facebook, but so you have to have a Facebook account, but you know, you're from wherever. Alana, I just gave you a share, screen, privilege if you wanted to show people what it looks like.
Sure. And
Oh, yeah.
as Paul alluded to, sometimes it can be kind of gossipy or also exciting people about, oh, this is what I found on my security camera. Everybody take a look for this type of person. And that's when it kind of becomes unfortunate. But as you can see, like they're labeled by what area they live in. So Stevens Park has an area, Bowen Street has an area. I'm in the area that's called Sterling Ave in Oshkosh. So when people are posting, I can also see what area of Oshkosh they're referring to. And like this, want to make some money before the game? They explain what they need and you can comment on it directly, or I could message this person, connect and find a way to.
It's a pretty handy thing for, you know, if you keep it relatively light. But I can't imagine, you know, like what Janet's talking about, using this open or next door as a vehicle for, you know, a couple trying to maintain themselves in their own home.
Yeah, to make a replacement from what an agency could do for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's not going to do that.
Well, it is one more, I guess, tool that people can tap into when it's that occasional sporadic need for help. But yeah, back to someone who needs more consistent assistance of some sort, probably not. I did hear a presentation a week ago Friday about some efforts that are being done at the state level that were pretty encouraging. And he was supposed to send us the PowerPoint that I thought I would have today, because I didn't take the best notes, but essentially some of the things that are being discussed have to do with the MA reimbursement rate. They have to do with fast tracking CNAs so that you can get credit if you have taken certain classes to become a CNA, just making that route easier, bridging some gaps to, there was about 5 different points that were addressing the caregiver shortage. So the state's definitely aware. And once I get that PowerPoint or those talking points, whenever he sends them, I'll definitely send them out to you guys to know that they're trying to do some things. And I was encouraged about a couple of the options.
Is Brian gonna be at the meeting today?
I thought so. Do you see him at all?
I didn't see it.
I thought he was.
The reason I say that, I asked that at the WCA County Human Services Steering Committee, they had a question on caregiver shortage, but is more about the shortage, I guess, the adult protective services. Someone from the state, and I could have went, I don't look at the follow-up email they sent, but she was on Zoom and she was saying how one nursing home, I don't know where it was in the state, that they had no one reported to work that day. And that's the big concern. And when I heard the adult protection services, that's kind of Brian's.
Actually, it's Nicole's
I
number.
mean, I was thinking maybe if I could find out who that person was, because she had said there's no, in the election, no one was really talking about it, governor candidates or any legislative candidates, but now it's it's a concern. They have some ideas what can be done. I was thinking maybe early next year, we could maybe have that person zoom in and give the presentation maybe and give more detail, because like I say, that was more, I know we were talking about the caregivers in general. That had to be more specific about the adult protective services and
Did that person talk about how to address the caregiver shortage at all too, and then?
I can't even tell you the truth, Beth. I just remember it wasn't what I thought caregiver. I mean, I was, we're having something about the caregiver shortage, and it wasn't really, it was more about the APS and their shortages and problems. And like I just gave them one example how some nursing facility or better facility, no one showed up, and they said there's a big crisis, and no one was talking about it during the campaign, but they think they have some ideals about how to do something in the next budget, and I think we should kind of bring that forth to our local area people. I think it's probably a concern, and like I say, I'm Nicole or Brian could tell me us situation here, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a study going on right now. Nicole could give you more detail about trying to measure the impact of what the shortage of staff is having on our adult protective services and crisis systems. So it could be someone living in a home with one other person, or a adult family home, or many different kinds of settings. And when there's not enough staff, it impacts so many people, especially APS. I don't know, Nicole, you might have more to say about the situation in Appleton.
Yeah, the one situation that we knew about was a skilled nursing facility or assisted living in Appleton that no staff came for the weekend. The fire department had to staff the home. Right now, the study that they're focusing on at the state is like adult family homes and how often there are crises and what's going on, like those smaller homes, because the larger nursing facilities are monitored pretty closely, consistently. And so they're trying to figure out how many calls come into adult protective services for smaller facilities, like CVRFs and adult family homes, assisted living facilities. But yeah, that happened. And the biggest issue was that there wasn't a solution. The fire department had to come and staff the facility for the entire weekend. And so I know that they had a traveling company come in, but at the same time, they weren't able to fully, they came in there, but people didn't show up or people still called in. So it was it was what, 2 weeks where it was being monitored to make sure people were showing up. I haven't heard anything since, so I'm hoping that
I haven't
means
either.
that.
Yeah, again, these are all examples of where it is definitely on the state's radar. And there is actually some things proposed and in the works to start addressing it.
Nicole, does the name Gina Shoop?
Mhm.
Because she made the presentation and that's who I would bring in. She's the APS coordinator for the Department of Health Services, so.
Yeah.
And that's they only gave me the name, I didn't give me the whole
Yeah.
presentation that they had, but yeah.
Beth, have you reached out to the group here in town that's kind of informally getting together, like Bella Vista and Evergreen and others? And to see if, okay,
Um,
Are you talking about that group that was, that,
Yes.
Harold a couple weeks ago?
yeah, right, it was, like Bella Vista and Evergreen and some of the other large providers, Parkview, they try to get together once a month or once every few weeks, and I don't know what's come of that, or whatever, but okay. Anything else in this particular topic? Do you want to do Route 10?
Sure. So again, a reminder that this committee also serves as the Aging Commission. And part of overseeing aging services, that has to do with meal sites, home delivered meals, some specialized transportation, things like that. Route 10 is one of the Oshkosh city bus routes that goes from Oshkosh to Neenah. There's a couple different stops along the way, including the prison. And over the years, Route 10 has become more and more costly, and the ridership has gone further and further down. So for example, when Route 10 was first developed, there were a lot of students in the Neenah or further north area who were going to UW Oshkosh. So UW Oshkosh actually contributed toward that route. Winnebago County did, because we had people who weren't able to drive that also utilized the route. Obviously, the city puts into that route, but again, the cost has gone up quite a bit and the ridership has gone down so much that we're really saying that this isn't a cost-effective transportation route. The UW Oshkosh pulled out about 3 years ago from all of their funding. And earlier this year, I had made a proposal to the city of Oshkosh that we need to look at a different alternative. With today's day and age, we have so many, Uber and Lyft and different types of micro transit, and there's just so many more options today. I think part of the reason why the ridership has gone down, because it's a long trip. When you get from the city of Oshkosh or city of Neenah main, what do you call it, bus stop, basically.
The whole thing is 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes to get from one stop to the other, and then you might have to do a connector, so that just gets you from one main stop to the other.
But part of the problem is that by having a 45-minute route, the other one, the connectors are every 30 minutes.
Yeah, so you
So
could,
that's the problem. So then you wait for that, then you have to wait for that. And then
Right.
it takes more time.
so you're talking about an hour and a half, really?
I'm talking about 2 hours.
Yeah, it could be more.
Could be
The-
short. Yeah, a long time ago, I did 3 hours. I was living in Neenah, and I had to take 3 buses to work. And altogether it was 3 hours to work 6.5 hours, 3 hours back home, and then that was. the end of the day.
Wow, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it
so,
was.
so it's a very, it's not very effective in terms of the amount of time it takes. And when I did a cost analysis before I contacted the city, when you look at what it would cost to run the route right now and the ridership right now, the cost per ride is more than if I were to call an Uber or a Lyft and go directly from my office to my Neenah office. So I can go direct, no waiting, no stops, 15-minute ride
Yep.
for less money than taking that route. So that was the impetus for me to start the conversation with the city. The city then hired a company to take a look at kind of a study on Route 10. And they proposed several different options that were presented to the Transportation Committee at the city of Oshkosh. And they said that it made sense to not continue Route 10 and look at some other type of microtransit. So what's going to happen is we have some meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks to talk to the Northeast Central Transit Committee, who's also doing some research on this, the city, the county, to look at a more, what I'm going to call on-demand type of service that would expand beyond just the city of Neenah and the city of Oshkosh. So I might live in Winchester and need to work in Winnebago. What kind of options are available to, again, not have to take, well, there is no bus. So there's a lot of places that there is no bus. There's places that the bus isn't feasible. We have a paratransit system in place already, but it's limited. So for example, if I live in the city of Oshkosh and I get dialysis 3 times a week, just outside the city limits, I can get 10 trips a month. Well, I need 6 a week.
Yeah, and 10 one-way trips.
Yeah, 10 one-way trips. I mean, like 5 overall trips, and I need, so our system is very limited in a lot of ways. So we're going to be doing a pilot project, hopefully by May, to look at better ways of connecting our county to other places in the county that is more cost effective and more affordable. It might mean some shared transportation. So if someone's going from Oshkosh to Neenah for a doctor appointment at 9 and someone else has a doctor appointment at 9:30, likely the one at 9:30 is gonna have to wait 20 minutes, so it's really maximizing our transportation system.
Who's going to be coordinating all that? I'm going to ask that kind of question.
Recording it,
No, coordinating that if you.
coordinating it, I'm sorry. Well, that's what we have to get the detail worked out, but basically, we already contract with the city of Oshkosh already contracts with like Oshkosh City Cab and Cab to Wins for those kind of rides. And so rather than develop a whole new system to address this, we're just going to expand the current system. Some of you might know it as the red card and blue card. Sound familiar at all? So we have a system in place to provide some transportation. Rather than invent a whole nother system or contract with a big company or just completely revamp everything. For the pilot project portion of this, we're going to just expand and extend our current transportation, our current paratransit system.
You talked about the month of May, that seems kind of late.
Agreed.
2 months after. the
Because
current
at
one.
the end of the year, at the end of Route 10.
No.
Oh, no, it's being continued and
Oh,
the Route 10 will be continuing until this kicks in.
Oh,
So Winnebago, okay, good question. Winnebago County Human Services is not going to pay for Route 10 in 2023. Winnebago County, as in the county executive has some authority, is going to pay for the continuation of Route 10 from January 1st until the system kicks in. Ideally April, but I'm gonna say May.
oh, then,
How is he going to do that? Can you ask?
He added it to the budget.
Okay, I guess I have to ask where.
I don't know where he put it in. I don't know enough about that detail. He just said he had the
I'm
money.
gonna have to find out. Okay, that's one thing. Okay.
Yeah, so it is continuing. It's not stopping. The other thing is, I've been itching to get something implemented for about 6 to 9 months right now. But really January 1st is not the time to try a new transit system when there could be people waiting extensively or, there could be flips in it. So we really wanted to wait till
like
March,
the
April.
home.
Yeah.
Who would be eligible? Is that going to be worked out too? I asked you this one back before. I'll give you my example. I don't drive, as everyone knows. I mean, right now I take Route 10. If there's a meeting at the Carbon Building, I don't get to exactly, but that's what I take. I took that route the bus to take a doctor's appointment. Well, I'm 58 years old.
Yeah.
Am I eligible, or did you have to have this?
Yeah.
This, I mean, and then,
Well,
you
we
know,
need to use it even for people who are
18,
able-bodied.
25, and I mean, that's my big concern. And I understand it may cost $3 or $5, you know, a lot cheaper than the Uber, but that's my concern is
Yep.
that if it's only gonna be used for paratransit people, well, then I don't see much
No,
benefit.
it's it's an extension of the paratransit system, so it doesn't, your age it isn't impacted as to whether you can use it or not. You know, again, we can recognize that there are people who are have employment opportunities that would get them out of the situation and have a big impact on their housing stability if only they could get to work. So it's going to be, because the ticket to ride really isn't working well. Make the ride happen really isn't working well. So we've got all these systems that are hobbling along. We need a stronger system to get people to work, to medical appointments, to wherever they need to go.
My last, even at my last point, or try to be one of the last points. Coordination of this program is very key, I think. You know, Paul said about the program they're having with the caregivers. What I heard in my last park committee meeting when it's brought up is that they are sending them, they're limited where they can send these people because these people don't have transportation. They can't really, they could go to Park Two, but who's going to coordinate, you know, work with these people and say, here's a program. That's, I don't know, that's your department, I don't know, that's workforce development, I don't know, it's Ann's department, but you have to coordinate things, because I think there are 60 programs to help people to get, at least in the city. I mean, after the bus is not running, you can get from one place to another place, a fairly cost-effective program, if people know about it. I think that's the coordination effort that we have to get. I mean, when you have a route, and whether, you know, I can complain about the route that I want, but it's a route, you know, it's going to run. It's, you know, what's the reliability? You know, you may work 11 to 7 or whatever. So that's that. I think the big thing is the coordination of getting people right, and that's the benefit is it's going to be more if it's going to be an extension of the paratransit. That's my big concern. Okay.
Yeah, so they're gonna be proposing something in December. I put it on the agenda because there was an article in the paper and I wanted to be very transparent about what's happening. We don't have the details of exactly, we know that it's not gonna be used for someone who's been out drinking too much on a Saturday night, needs to get home at 11. That's not what this is for. It is for identified needs. So we have to identify, you know, what kind of needs. It's also not for someone who let's say they live in Appleton and work in Oshkosh and they can get there, but they don't feel like spending the money on gas. So they want to use something like this. No, you have a way to get there. So no, we're not gonna, you're not eligible for this. So again, a lot of details to come.
Okay,
Wait, we got 3 people in the room with their hands up. Harold, I think was
Okay.
first.
Beth, if I understood you correctly, I thought you said earlier that you got a couple agencies already can perform the service at a cheaper cost. So why can't they take care of the whole problem?
They're going to, but they have to, they're funded in part by the city. So we have to, the city has to decide who gets to use this, how much money is it gonna take? We're gonna use them, but they can't, if they were to charge the individuals themselves, I think most individuals would say it's too much. So the person using it will pay less than what they, you know, less than Uber, less than the true cost of it. But we don't know what that cost is. So it might go up to $6 to get from one to another, but it's door-to-door service without having to do, like Rob said, with a 3-hour transit ride. If you could get one from point A to point B for $6, it might be worth your while. So I don't know what that dollar amount's gonna be. But again, it's going to be looking at our current system and saying, let's expand this to people who need it for work, who need it for, I think about the western part of the county where there's incredibly limited public transportation. Lots of needs out there, but we want to improve our system, and hobbling along of some of the stuff we have in place right now isn't meeting most of the needs of our community.
I say this before, Beth, I say again, ARPA funds are out there to try a trial thing. You know, it's gonna take some time, I know that. I mean, if we could, I don't know if you looked at how to apply for any of those funds, I know Berkshaw's done. And I think for a trial, I think someone has to be tried, I think that could help the whole county. You know, I've shown you. Wisconsin Counties Magazine had a thing a few months ago, you know, in the southeast part of the state, they have, you know, governments and educational institutions and hospitals, you know, healthcare providers all got together and they have the system. They haven't raised rates, very reasonable rates. They have like 3 or 4 routes. Could we do, so I know that's way down the road, but we have to start thinking about that. And that's, you know, I know you have a lot on your plate, you and Nicole, but if we can think of a way to say, hey, fund this program, give us a year or 2 and see how it works, because I think that's what's in, I think a transportation that's for the whole county, that whole benefit, I think is worthwhile. I'd be pushing for it. So that's my
Yeah, there's a
suggestion.
lot of federal funds to be tapped into, and we're letting the transportation experts figure this out. The Northeast, Wisconsin Central Transit Committee, whatever that acronym is, are the ones really looking at what we need to do and how we need to do that, and they're gonna propose a recommendation to us in a couple of weeks, so. We're just gonna have to some degree figure it out as we go along, but I think there's some people who really know what they're doing that are gonna help guide us. They're also well aware of what's happening in Green Bay, and I think that we're gonna get a variation of that where you can get directly from one transit to another and then do your connector from there. Or I shouldn't say that, from your place with your origin, place of origin to the. Well, Green Bay's got several different hubs for transportation. They don't have one bus main spot, but an example would be if I live on the outskirts of Neenah and I need to get to Oshkosh, it would get you from where you live to the Oshkosh Transit Center. And then from there, you do your connector like you normally do. So I think that they're probably gonna throw stuff like that into it too, so that it's not just all point A to point B. It could be to get you to the nearest, to the transit center and or bus stop closest to where you're going. And then you catch the bus from there.
Any other question? Any other questions or comments?
Rob has his hand up. I don't think.
Okay.
The question is, what paper was that in? Was that in
Oshkosh
the
Herald.
Herald?
Yep.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, okay? And then the other thing I could say is that it wasn't 3 hours, it was a total of 3 hours. So it's 90 minutes to work and then 90
Okay,
minutes.
gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying, because I thought it was 2 ways. And it might have been more than 2 weeks ago. I'd have to check the date of the article,
Okay.
but it was an announcement that the city and the county are going
And
to
then I was,
join together cooperatively.
I was wondering if you were referring to East Central Regional Planning Commission?
Yes.
That's it.
What did I say? Northeast
Say
Central?
North.
I did.
What's she
Because-
talking about? I
because-
never heard of that.
They're based out of Green Bay and Appleton. It is the East
I-
Central Planning Commission.
I will say that I thought I heard watching the city council meeting last week that there's supposed to be some big announcement. You know, defer to you and Nicole. I mean, you wouldn't might know about transportation. It's shit.
Nobody said anything at our meeting, huh, Rob?
Okay.
Yeah, specialized.
The only thing I'm aware of is that
Yeah.
that East Central is going to present something to the county and the city, because again, it's a joint endeavor. So they're going to present something to us. That's about all I know.
Yeah. You work for the city, so I understand.
Are they gonna
Right.
have a review with the council?
Can we,
Probably.
Okay, I just wondered.
Yeah, I'll keep you all posted as far as the progress with this, and then at the point that it's going to be brought up either at the county board or the Oshkosh transit committee or something like that, I'll let you know.
Or they ask us common council.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
probably.
All right, so Beth, can you talk or give us an update on the help program, please?
I do not know where Brian or Sarah are, but Sarah is our new, is she on here? Or by Zoom? No.
I don't
Sarah
think
Brown
so.
is our new help supervisor. So just to refresh your memory, HELP stands for homeless eviction and loss prevention. It's a new program that is being funded by a neighborhood grant. It's part of the $10.3-ish million that Winnebago County received to address homelessness. And so there are 4 programs that are actually addressing homelessness, which is the tiny houses on Jackson and Packer and Oshkosh. A solutions recovery, which provides housing for people with substance abuse. Covey, which provides housing for people with physical disabilities, and the warming shelter. So those are the 4 things that are addressing actual housing. The 5th component of it is the HELP program, which is to look at preventing people from getting to that point of needing those kind of things. So looking at preventing homelessness, eviction, or loss prevention. And we have learned a lot in the 2 weeks she's been here. So we're already looking at learning more about the resources that are already out there, better coordinating those resources. We've identified a couple of gaps that could be relatively easily addressed, so one of them had to do with licensing, because the place where a person could have gone during a gap in housing was licensed for people who are ambulatory and not and semi-ambulatory. So she's in a wheelchair. So if the license had said ambulatory, semi-ambulatory, and non-ambulatory, she could have gone there. So that's just a licensing issue. So there's just some pretty cool things that we're already identifying that we can do to improve options for us. Again, learning a lot about what's out there. People are very eager, the people we've talked to so far are very eager to work together. And so that's going to be a cool part of it. We learned that the Christine Ann Center is expanding quite extensively. So again, that's homeless or housing for people experiencing domestic abuse. So it's pretty cool. And I can't introduce you to Sarah because she's not here, but that was kind of the point of me putting out on the agenda so that you could meet her, ask her the questions. She comes from a different county and working in child protection, helping prevent situations that would lead to child protective services getting involved. And she sort of developed their program. So she's used to starting out from scratch. She's used to doing prevention activities and very confident and doing spectacularly well these first couple of weeks.
So who would she report to, and how often do you think you could that board or could you want to report from her?
She reports to me, and she's collecting some loose data right now because the program is not up and running. She's just learning the resources and getting some footing. We are going to be hiring 2 help specialists, and then we'll start collecting data that will be available monthly. We have the ability to hire up to 4 help specialists and an administrative staff in addition to her, but we're just going to start out with 2 and see where that gets us. I would project by mid-January, it'll be fully operational in terms of anybody being able to make a referral to the program.
So now I'm just curious, you could hire up to how many staff could you have?
4,
And that's already in the budget, I take it.
part of the grant proposal.
Okay. I'm just saying, maybe next spring, at a special order, maybe be a good opportunity to make a presentation, initial one to the county board. County board, we're supposed to get update on this whole neighborhood
Yeah,
every 6 months. And I know she's just starting, we're gonna starting, if next April or May, when we have a special orders meeting, might be a good time to have an initial.
my guess is you guys are going to get updates at those 6 months because it's part of that grant. So it's part of that whole thing. So I'm guessing you'll learn about it when they do
We haven't got much so far, so I wouldn't count on you.
okay.
Unless
Well,
I-
make sure you
unless-
have-
Beth, on behalf of the ADRC committee, is this a thing that we are is a committee responsible for? Or is this a separate,
There is, this committee has no responsibility for it. The
Okay.
reason why I put it on the agenda is because of the number of people that we support, who have a disability, or are
Right.
older adults that are experiencing homelessness.
okay,
Let you know that there's a pretty big beacon at the end of the tunnel. We're just starting to kick it off. We finally made some progress.
okay. Any questions of Beth on this area?
Harold has one.
Go for it.
I don't know, I can't tell.
How long does this grant last?
Till the end of 2024.
In 2020? Once the grant ends, where does the money come from to keep things going? Has anybody
That's-
figured that out?
Everyone's got the same question. My vision is that, I don't know, let's say it becomes the full, will be 6 people operating the program. Let's say it's that big, a year from now. My vision is that as a system, we're all gonna learn more about if a person is a vet and physically disabled, these are the options. It doesn't take a help specialist, a help staff to follow through those options. Anybody in this department, anyone in the community should be able to go A, B, C. If a person is, let's say they're, a parent, so there's minor children in the home and they have no income, they go Z, Y, X, this is the route, these are the resources. So within the 2-year grant, we want to, number one, identify gaps and fix those so that won't be needed after the grant. Number 2, better coordinate what we have, which is a big need, so that we can all operate better than we have been. Number 3, huge promotions, because right now people aren't accessing assistance until they're already evicted and they're already homeless and their home has been foreclosed on. We need people to access help before that, so that you are gonna see a ton of advertising for, do you need help? No pun intended there, but that's, so we want people to know that there are a ton of things that can help people prior to getting evicted and prior to, so that after this grant, the community is much more aware of that, everyone in the community, not just human services. Once that's all accomplished, I think there'll still be a need, but I think the need's gonna be half of what it is at its peak, if that. And then at that point,
From 10 million down to 5 million, but the county's still gonna have to try to find
Well,
$5 million.
10.3 million is for all of the 5 projects. This particular project is, well, the other ones are all bricks and mortar. So once spent, there's no ongoing needs. So about $9-ish million is going to be for building places. And again, one and done, no ongoing need after the grant. This program that we're talking about will have an ongoing need of some sort. But we don't know whether that's going to stay part of a help program, whether part of human services, part of another agency like the Salvation Army or Advocate or someone else who does housing. But it's going to be, in the scheme of budgets, not very big. We just don't know
Then
yet.
I
what
got
it's gonna
more
be.
questions.
Yeah.
Are we, in our process of trying to hire employees, you said you already hired 1. And you got, what, 3 more you might hire? Are we being fair with them? You let them know that when we hire them, they may only be on the payroll until the end of the
Absolutely.
project. You're being fair with them?
Crystal clear that when the grant ends at the end of 2024, we have no idea what's going to happen with their job. And I actually have 2 county employees who are willing to risk their job as a full-time on the table of organization county employee to do this project. So I've got a lot of interest. So I'm not worried about hiring, but if they're a county employee, it is a risk to them.
Most government programs, once they start, they keep on going, but that's gonna be the county executive's headache.
Correct,
To
correct.
come up with the money.
I think it will keep on, I shouldn't say it will keep on going in some way, shape or form. We just don't know how large, whether it'll be us, whether it'll be, again, a nonprofit organization that does it. We don't know what it's gonna look like, but it will be something ongoing. And we'll know that a year and a half from now, we'll know that. What's it gonna take?
is there? I don't know when I ask this. Is there any benefit? No, wait, I gotta back up one step. Are we the only county with this type of grant, or do other counties have them?
There were a couple other counties that got them, but I don't know exactly which counties and exactly what they were doing. This particular help program is the only one I'm aware of in the country that's doing exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay,
There, I found one that was kind of similar in California and one that was kind of similar in Milwaukee. But they were more along the lines of what Advocat is now than what I'm talking about. So we're kind of treading uncharted territory.
okay, because my next question was gonna be, is would there be any benefit to contact the state? And try to work with them, we're saying, hey, or if this money runs out, is there any way the state's gonna be able to help us to continue the programs? But if we're in a minority throughout the state of Wisconsin, the state of probably say, we're not gonna help you.
Well, but what if hypothetically, we look at the rate of people losing, I call it housing stability, that if they lose their housing stability, if the rate is 50 people a month, and at the end of this 2 years, it's down to 20 per month, and we can show that, then the state might want to take it on as a, holy smokes, we can impact homelessness in our country, or in our state.
No, but I don't know, if anybody sent a letter or did it communicate it to the state?
Not yet,
Not yet.
right?
I
The
guess
state is-
I figured
but yeah,
that answer
yeah,
before.
yeah. So it's right now, it's ARPA funded and we get it from the state. But as far as any other state and grants or funding, I think we need some data behind what we're doing to show, you know, maybe this is not doable. Maybe we can't impact, and we start out
Oh,
with.
yeah, they're gonna
50
make a
people.
big, I'll make a prediction, that they're gonna make a big impact on homeless, all right. They're gonna double it in Oscar.
Well, for people who are homeless coming here, that's very possible, but I'm looking at trying to prevent people from becoming homeless. So that's the intent of this program.
We all dream in times. Anyway, I said,
All right,
thank you, guys.
yes.
Any other questions of Beth on the help program? Alana, would you be kind enough to talk about what's happening in our wonderful world of public health, please?
Surely, sure. I already have sharing rights, so I think I can just pop up something on the screen that I'd like to tell you guys about. We have been working on the website along with the entire county, but probably the most resourceful for you guys in terms of public health is to come to our partner toolkit. So if you're on the health department page over on the left, there is a navigation page and you can see a partner toolkit. On this page, we've really listed a lot of the resources, the flyers that we are commonly asked for and need to disseminate, share that material. Stuff that is very relevant to ADRC and us would be our Wellness Plus classes. So if you click to it, it'll scroll right down to that part of the page where you can see both PDFs and paying versions. Many of them are both in English and Spanish. Some we even have in Hmong as well. This is one of the new versions of our Wellness Plus class flyer. It doesn't have any specific dates or times on it so that it can be evergreen, meaning that you can use it at any time, anywhere, but we are still using our bit.ly to push people towards the current class list. Other things that are on there related to substance use, social connection, COVID information. So check that out and share it as you will. Otherwise, for us over here, we are chipping along. The budget was interesting for us. We did lose some positions that change a lot of the way we write grants and will work forward. None of the healthy aging contracts or staffing was affected. So our relationship with ADRC isn't impacted very much, but definitely our family, child health and equity work. So just know that that is coming down, but that's all for me. Any questions?
Thank you, as always, Elena. I saw Nicole in the room someplace. Anything from your area?
Nothing really going on right now. Just waiting for the holiday rush.
Well,
Can you
Medicare.
Can you talk a little bit about that decades or
Oh, sure.
aging through the decades or whatever?
I'm hoping that we don't get dumped on, and it still happens tomorrow. But we are with the AARP, and Alana and Paul will be there, are hosting a decades dinner. So it's tomorrow night at Beckett's, and it is, the goal is someone from every decade in attendance. So someone in their 20s, someone in their 30s, someone in their 40s, from all different areas of the county, people who do different jobs, people who work in different locations and kind of have different opinions. And so I'm very excited because my biggest struggle was finding people in their 90s. And I was able to find 2 people in their 90s that are able to come, and someone in their 80s. So we're totally at a good spot. The theme of the dinner is disrupting aging. So to talk about aging stereotypes and ways that we can impact our county to have people talk about aging in a positive way. It's a moderated conversation by me. When I first took this on, I didn't realize that I had to do all the talking. So hopefully everyone talks and not just me. But so I'll have some like challenge questions and things to get the conversation going, but it's a very like positive way to connect different people in the community to have that conversation about aging and aging positivity. So I'm very excited and we'll let everyone know how it goes, but the AARP had asked when Alana and I were in Madison if anybody was willing to do it. And I had said, yeah, I think that people here would think it was a really cool idea.
So how many are gonna be participating in what? That's my first question, and my second question is, what are you gonna do with what is presented at this dinner?
Sure. Right now we have 15 people that are coming to the dinner. And that's one of the things that after we kind of talk about, you know, if anybody has any ideas, and then we work with the AARP regarding some of the ideas people might have had, and then kind of move from there. They have a good opportunity to know of different grants out there and kind of different opportunities that we can pursue through some of the information that we get.
And speaking of breaking down barriers, do you want to touch also on the food and diversity and YMCA, whatever?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry, I do have things going on.
So much going on, you can't remember it all.
So last month was our first installment. Part of our aging plan is to provide diversity and culture within food, and to teach people about different types of cultural cuisines. And so it's something that our nutrition program had attempted to do in March, was to provide some different types of foods. And they were going to start working on it again. And so I met with the YMCA and talked to them if they were willing to partner on this. An idea that we have, it's free to the community every month, the first Tuesday of every month from 11 to 12:30. We are having somebody from the community come in and cook a food that's important to their culture and their family and talk about it. And you can come in and sample the food. It's a very casual, ask questions, and really just bring people together by talking about people's families and their culture over something as simple as a meal. And so our first one was last month, so in October, and actually Chu and Brandon here from Human Services presented on their culture, which is Hmong culture, and they cooked kapun, and it was awesome. Alana came to support, And we had 50 people sign up, so that's a big deal for our first one. And so actually, our next one is the first Tuesday in December, and our presenter is Susan Garcia Franz from Public Health. And she is making something from her culture, which is Ecuador. Gosh, I can't think of the name. It's a corn tortilla, corn tamale type dish, starts with an H. I don't have the flyer with me. So just so everyone knows, it's free to come, and I'd love everyone's support to come out if you're able to.
Do you have a flyer that, or give me the information that I can announce at a county board meeting, and I can help promote on social media, because I may have heard about this, but I didn't get the particulars. I mean, I wish it was just not later than noon, but that's, you know,
Yeah.
beyond the thing.
The county board does get the newsletter, and it'll be in there.
Yes,
Well,
who many does?
Yeah.
You're right.
that's not, my perspective is not that good enough. You have to like tell people 3-4 times and then no, maybe.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. That's why,
So one of the really cool things about it is that we are trying to get assistance with community partners for the food. So the food co-op is interested in partnering with us to try to give us some of the food. So the presenters are not paid, they're people from the community. And so we have been purchasing their ingredients for them. And so we're hoping to get other community partners who are willing to chip in just to help out with the food. And so the food co-op is on board, and so if anyone has any ideas, but yeah, I can send you the flyer. It's at the community kitchen at the Y. The reason why we do it at 11 is because one of the populations that we're targeting is the older adults. And their classes go until 11. So that way, then they don't have to come back or travel anywhere else. They have a specific classes that end at 11 so that they can stop in and after class and participate in the programming.
Out that at the Y downtown?
Yes,
Okay, because it's awful while.
and the 20th. Yes, no, it's here downtown.
Nicole, for the 50 folks that signed up, how many in fact showed for that first session?
That's a good question. It's a little bit hard to tell. I think it probably was around 50. We were thinking maybe 45 people came because we leave it very casual. So you don't have to be there at 11.
Right.
You can pop in at any time and grab food and ask questions and talk. The major part of the presentation is at 11, but anyone can stop in at any time from 11 to 12:30.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Nicole? Beth, anything else from your vantage point?
I guess I do have one more thing, sorry.
Jump back to Nicole.
So we are also starting our virtual dementia experience. We have partnered with Parkview. And they are allowing us access to they have one whole neighborhood that's empty. So they do virtual dementia for their staff, but they haven't done it for the community. So they're allowing Elisa and I and some of our volunteers to use their facility, which is amazing. And we are piloting it for our volunteers in December. And then we are going to start offering it. I can't tell you exactly what, I think it might be like the third Tuesday of every month. And anyone can register to come and go through the experience. In the beginning, our focus will be on caregivers of people, other people from Parkview who are family members that would benefit from that, and other staff members who throughout Winnebago County that work with people who have memory loss issues. But we're gonna start a registration system where anybody can register. And we're gonna consistently have it every month so that people can plan for, getting trained. And like I said, it's an experience that teaches you what it feels like to have dementia so that you can have empathy and understanding of how to take care of someone with dementia.
Looking forward to it. Beth,
I think we covered everything I have.
okay. Kate? Okay, Jan? Okay. Tamara,
No,
thank you. Harold,
Yeah, I'd like to request an update on the food program run by Advocap at the Oshkosh Senior Center.
okay,
Sure, I can give an update on that. So we met with Advocap, gosh, it must have been September, October, to get a plan in place on reopening. The plan was supposed to be that they were reopening at the senior center December 1st. But I guess that the senior center had programming and it didn't work for them. So my last update was that January 1st, they were gonna reopen congregate meals there. But Advocap was ready to open a little bit earlier, but they had already had things planned during that time, so they pushed it back a little bit.
In general, Nicole, are all the congregate meal sites now open, Babcap, or some still closed, may I ask that?
So the only one that I know that is not open is the senior center yet, and then there was two sites of housing locations that weren't open due to the fact that their facility, like they weren't allowing people to congregate to concerns and at those locations with bed bugs, and so they were working on resolving that issue first before they opened those up. But as far as Beth and I were made aware, that Advocap is ready to open, it's just the facilities now that we're waiting for. Because we did make sure that they were gonna open, because we understand how important it is for people to be able to have that socialization.
And in the facility is also including the Amro Community Center because there's some potential upheaval happening there, and so there's a little bit of unknownness to the future of the Amro Community Center, and so that was also going.
Yeah, but Nicole, I don't understand how this problem at the senior center happened.
That they were,
You said that, I talked to people down there too, and they told me the same thing. It was a staffing thing. They got it all set up, and so Advocap cannot come in. But how did it happen? Why didn't, what, is there a lack of communications or something between Advocap and the senior center? And if so, whose responsibility is it?
yeah,
And what's gonna be done to make sure it doesn't happen again?
that it opens in January.
Yeah, but is there anybody taking care of this? Or are they all sitting back assuming someone's doing this and someone's doing that?
Our understanding is that Advocap is well aware that it has to open in January. Nicole and I will certainly check in with them in December to make sure that they are ready, that the senior center is ready. And we can't say as to who did or didn't say what to make it happen. You know, it's been talked about for months now, and when it came time, the senior center wasn't available.
Who has the staffing problems, City of Oshkosh or Advocap?
I don't know. They just told me, they said they said they had Michael, they said they had a scheduling problem. I mean, no, like, try to straighten something out, my little pea brain. You got a train going down the track, and it's going smoothly. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, the train runs into a problem.
You know, I'll give you an assumption. I get how dangerous this is, but the senior center schedules things months out. So for example, if you want to do something or get something in their newsletter, you have to let them know 2 months ahead of time. So they are months out with their scheduling. So at the point in time that Advocap says, okay, we're ready to go, they already had stuff scheduled. They schedule way ahead of time, good, bad, or otherwise, I don't know if that's been your experience, Nicole, but typically they are scheduling their activities at their center way ahead of time. And so rather than cancel activities, they decided to postpone. So I
Yeah, but
can't say that with
but I would
100%
think
certainty,
if
but
AdvoCap is using a certain building, a certain room in that building. And if for some reason, something happens, whether it's COVID, no matter what it is. You think before the senior center would do anything different about that building, they would communicate with AdvoCap.
but
And-
it's been years, Harold, since it's been open, so it would have been vacant for years. It sat, that space that they used for the meals
Yeah.
sat there for
Yeah.
a long
Right.
time. And then when the senior center fully opened, they started using it again, having scheduled out ahead of time. So, I think that they had things planned there already, maybe not every day. But, you could certainly contact Gene Wellerman at the senior center and say, is that the case that you had stuff scheduled at the point in time Advocate contacted you? That's my best guess. I don't know if that seems jives with anyone else's experience.
So we're assuming right now that come January 1st. Senior center is not gonna reschedule that room for some other
Correct,
activities.
correct.
And obviously, if the way things operate, to come January 1st, if there's a mix up or miscommunications between the senior center and AdvoCap. And senior center fill that room up for some other
No,
program.
no, no, no,
Then
no.
the AdvoCap said, I'm sorry, I'm passing a buck to the senior
Yeah.
center, but we don't care about the older people.
No, Nicole and I are going to be on top of it to make sure that there's no misunderstandings. This came up early October, to get it started, December 1st. And even though you'd think over a month ahead of time would be enough, but from the senior center's perspective, I don't think it was enough time. So had we contacted them in August to say we want December 1st, it probably would have happened. But in August, we were still not sure what, if, when we were opening stuff.
But to be fair, Beth and I did start really pushing the conversation that we need to start opening these things up. I did research and found what other counties are open and contacted all the other counties and found out how their nutrition programs are going and what everybody else is doing. And we brought all of that to AdvoCap to advocate to open everything up.
And we
So we could-
basically gave them a deadline by the end of the year.
Yeah,
I'm in full confidence that you two will make sure this gets done. And if it's not get done, Harold, then Beth will say, hey, I think you need to talk to city officials or AdvoCap and why isn't it getting done? Because it's not there. We contract with AdvoCap to get it done. They have designated the site is in Oshkosh at the senior center. Like I say, if January 1st, if there's a problem, I tell you what, you tell me, I'll contact the city manager and other people and say, hey, what's the problem here? It's not,
I don't anticipate there being a problem. I mean, there could be some weird outbreak of something. Who would have anticipated the bed bug problem? Those were two popular meal sites and they, no can do.
and you didn't name those, but Nicole, I don't have to, but it's gotta be, I know. The one on Main Street and Court Towers, you don't have to name them. You don't have to name them, but yeah, and you can't control, meaning Nicole can't control, not our AdvoCap, I understand, so, yeah, and you're trying to address the problem.
It is a priority for us, though.
I'm not saying, I'm confident. You can do that.
Yeah. No doubt we'll be having another conversation about this subject next month.
I can put on the agenda for an update to say we're on track.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, I really personally don't think it's your fault, you or Nicole, it's AdvoCap or the senior center.
Agreed. They would have, could have, should have communicated sooner. And better, obviously.
I guess
Responsibility, but that's another.
I'd make one other observation here, and if I'm, as a point of privilege being the chair. It distresses me when I hear things like, well, we're gonna push it off another month or 2 or 3. And yet this organization, particularly the senior center, its primary mission is to serve and provide services to seniors. AdvoCap, its primary mission is to provide services to seniors. And it would seem to me that be if not their highest priority, awfully close.
And
So,
I just want to say, the reason why I shared the assumption with you that I do is that if it had been scheduling a couple of things for a few weeks, again, this was brought up to them in October.
Yeah.
So they would have said, oh, we gotta wait till December 7th or December 15th. The fact that they are pushing it off an entire month and that they schedule things months ahead of time tells me that they had December scheduled already.
okay. All right. Anything else, Harold?
No,
Okay, Rob?
I'm sorry, I do have one
Nope.
more. If my memory is correct, Beth, last month we talked about a couple of vacancies on this committee and you were talking about getting them filled or something.
Yes, good question. I contacted all of the people whose names were given to me and none of them were interested, or they didn't meet the criteria of being an older adult.
What, okay, I've been trying to recruit people too from the areas you said you wanted. Older adult means what? One person asked me, what is that?
60 or above.
60 above, okay. I'm concerned what Harold says, what is the status? One person hasn't been here all this year. And the county board supervisor who are, you and Paul or I can talk to the county secretary, hasn't been to any meeting. And I guess I'm kind of fed up with him and the county executive. I'm going to ask him, you talk to him, and
Well-
if he can't make the meeting, then get a supervisor who
I
can.
was prepared for that, actually. So again, I contacted all the names that were given to me. As far as the people who are appointed and aren't attending, you guys have their list of contacts and I can resend it to you. I'll send out the list of everyone's contacts. I think considering that every month I reach out, maybe one of you guys could reach out and say, hey, we missed you. We'd like to see you here.
I'll be happy to draft something, Beth and I'll draft something for my signature and
I think coming
send
from
out
the
to
chair would
folks.
mean something. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I'll send that list out when I
Paul,
send the other talking
And Paul,
points.
I'll co-sign with you, because I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
talk to county secretary tomorrow night. He said, Mr. Robinson hasn't been to a meeting at all since he's been appointed in May. And there are other people who I think would be here every month, and that's ridiculous. Now, I was gonna go more on my end thing, but I'll wait, I'm sorry.
All right. Anything else, Mike?
Couple things. Let me just continue that because, you know, I'm not gonna. We have quorum. Do we really have quorum? It's a good thing that we don't have anything controversial, because the only one who can really vote on things are me, Harold, and Robert. I'm just saying that if we had something to vote on, I don't want, I'm just saying, you can prepare, you can meet on a virtual meeting, but you can't participate unless you're at the meeting. That's not my rule, that's the county board rules. And I don't want to get in trouble for that. That's one thing. Okay, that's one thing. Got that over. Couple of things. The advertising that we have on this new bus, how much does it cost? What's that contract? That's my one question. And B, what kind of advertising do we have similarly in the rural areas? And like you or Nicole answer that question.
What do you mean,
Well, how much does it cost?
the new advertising?
Yeah,
That was through the vaccine access grant.
okay.
So the state reached out to me and said, there's a lot of counties that haven't used their money. And so some of it went to public health for their flyers. And then they reached out to me and they said, you have like 2 days basically to give us a plan on how you could use money to promote the vaccine. And so I worked with, I had gotten a call the day before from the bus advertising and they said, we'd love to do bus advertising. And I called them back and I said, you have 1 day to let me know, could you do bus advertising that has to do with the vaccine? And then when I talked to the state, they said, if you promote the vaccine, you can add the ADRC in there and promote something that's important to the ADRC, but it has to focus on the vaccine. And so one of the things that our biggest concerns right now is the fact that we have lots of dementia programming, but people are not attending. And so we need more people to be proactive and attend all of our programs. We don't want to lose them. the Fox Valley has lots of programs, but they're trying to build those programs up here in Oshkosh, and we just have problems with attendance. Our memory cafes and mine works and things like that, so. Yeah, and so, then I worked with them to put the ads on, so it was strictly only through the specific grant, the vaccine access grant.
Okay, that's satisfying to some degree, and it does, Nicole.
What do you mean by some degree?
Well, I mean, if we're just concentrating on Oshkosh, that's what the bus is, they're only gonna run in Oshkosh. What are we doing to help, not help, that's the wrong way. The international area and what's the 41, and that is one of my concerns, always on this board, is what are we doing to reach out to not just the Oshkosh area, or the international area, west of 41. And like I say, for answer, I'll take that because you just got grants from the state, had to do it pretty quick. That satisfied me, but back in my mind, I wanted, and I am kind of curious when I saw the buses, oh, and why do we have those, and what are we doing for other parts of this county?
Alana's gonna cringe when I say this, but, really, we've leaned pretty heavily on public health to do it. Is the aging population more affected by COVID? Certainly. Is it important that they get vaccinated? Yes, very much so. But rather than really duplicate what they were doing and crossover, we've just supported their efforts. So I'm not trying to pass the buck on them. And I know that they've done, like, they had a clinic out at the 20th Street Y, I believe, and they've done stuff west of 41, but we've kind of channeled money to them for their efforts. So,
Yeah, and in a smart way, I was gonna step in and say there's been plenty of done outside of Oshkosh, and it's different tactics for a population like this that's rural or elderly. We're not using bus advertisements. In Oshkosh, that works. There's more concentrated elderly that would see that in the street, but in the rural areas, something like we dropped off materials at all the clerk's office for voting day, so that as people were coming in, they'd be exposed to that. So there's definitely been a lot of efforts, and whenever Human Services has extra funds, I think it's great that they come to us and say, how can we help what you're doing versus try to do something else.
that help.
Anything else, Mike?
Yes, it does. Thank you for Nicole. Thank you for that. Care. The last thing, I talked about at the meeting where we learned about the adult protective services plans or shortage, whatever. Here's my ideal, maybe at the February meeting, we invite her to make a presentation, and at the same time, February and March, I think that'd be a good time we have a few new legislators in the area, in Oshkosh and otherwise. I think it'd be a good time to invite them for their budget get started. And also, January would not be good because they're all getting new to their community times. That February, March would be a good time. I'd be willing to help with that. And like I say, we have a couple of caregiver issues, whether it's the adult protection services or in general, be something we could educate them on. So.
Yeah, the long-term support PAC has made APS its priority. Funding for APS has not gotten this kind of momentum in 10 years. So it's being pushed pretty strong at the state level for budgetary reasons. Personally, I don't know that I like Gina, and she's kind of new but good at what she does. I don't know that there's much she can present that Nicole and I don't already know or could present to you.
If you can do it.
I think we could present it to legislators if that's what you want to do, or to this committee, because of the impact it has on the people that we support. But I don't know that she's going to have much that's unique to outside this area. We were pretty much experiencing what the rest of the state is. I don't think it's unique. So I think we could do that though.
Then that's fine. Then
I'll put it on the agenda for like maybe February, March, something like that.
I do see the next month we're having the veterans services. I think Paul, I think you're listening.
I'm listening.
I think instead of giving money to a veterans village in Outagamie County, I think we should try to start working with the veteran services here and see if we can't get a veterans village in Winnebago County. I'm just ready, I didn't ask him that question at budget time, but he hinted that that's a big need and, yeah, so, yeah.
Okay,
That's our December agenda.
noted. Anything else? Going once. I think we're adjourned.
Make a motion
Have a
to
happy
adjourn.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys all have a good time and Nicole, I'll see you I'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you.
Will you stop? To say that.
I'm working on.